All right, we're going to go ahead and get going here. Welcome to our year-end wrap-up for Sage Intacct, the best that we have found for our clients from the 4 quarterly releases that have come out in Sage Intacct this year. This is not by any means going to be an exhaustive list of all the features and functionality that have been added in Intacct in 2024, but we went through, Michael Sudbury and I went through and cherry picked the pieces of all the 4 releases that we thought would specifically be helpful to our clients that we work with all the time. So with that, we will get going. We'll start off with a couple of introductions. I think probably since it's mostly our ongoing clients on the call that everybody knows us, but I'm Tom Aker. This slide still says Senior Solutions Consultant. I'm the Director of the Sage Intacct practice here at Sensiba. I've been working with Intacct for over 10 years and have worked on other ERPs as well. So I bring some perspective to our technologies that are available to us in the accounting world. And I'm always impressed and excited to see what the Intacct product offers as it expands its footprint each quarter. So excited to share the best of 2024 with you today.
And I am Michael Sudbury. I'm a Senior Systems Implementation Specialist with Sensiba. And I have a lot of background with using Sage Intacct as and then moved into implementing Intacct, sort of that more back end. So I am all for improvements to the system and things that make our lives easier. So with that, let's get started on some things that we're going to be covering today. We'll be covering improvements in AP and AR, some AP automation that's come out, some changes in cash management, general ledger and consolidation changes, inventory management, order entry and purchasing changes, enhancements to project grants and time and expenses, contracts and revenue management, and just some general admin and user experience updates. Also,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Also for 2024, we have some add-on products and early adopters as well. So Sage Intacct Professional Services Automation, powered by Forecast, Sage Intacct Fixed Asset Management, yet a new tool from Sage, forms and operation flows, and then also Sage Intacct Data Flows.
And the big thing that Sage is talking about this most recent release is the early adopter of the Sage Copilot. So anytime, of course, you see a rainbow logo with a little sparkle, that means there's AI, right? So this is the Copilot that Sage is rolling out. There's a lot of aspects to Copilot to their plans. But the first thing that's out here in early adopter that I think is the most practical application of this Copilot so far is the ability to have Copilot give you immediate feedback and insights on your financials based on variance from either prior periods or from budget. And of course, when it's in early adopter like this, the AI learning models are getting improved by the actual usage of those early adopter companies in the workplace. So it's helping build out those models. If you're interested in an early adopter program, I think that this one is still open, but of course this changes by the day. So worth looking into, and you can reach out to us if you want to check this out. But as I said, this Copilot is a big thing that Sage is rolling out, and this variance analysis is just the first piece of it. There is also, I don't have a slide for it, but there's also a new Copilot assisted contextual help search. So I always found searching in the help was really good, right, Michael? But apparently apparently the Copilot can do it even better. Now, see, there's the sparkle.
I do wonder why that has been the design choice, and I guess they all follow it. So, but yeah, definitely excited to see that. Any tool that's gonna, it yeah, we're all accountants. It may be a long day. You might miss one variance that didn't pop out. Well, this is a purely analytical tool that might be able to like point to something that you just happen to miss. So it'll be very exciting to see this rolled out. Exciting to see it learn and get better over time. So
Yeah. I think the expectation with this is that it will actually be able to start offering not only insights, but strategic suggestions. In the more down to earth, granular kind of day-to-day work, there's been some good improvements this year in accounts payable and accounts receivable. I know if you have high volumes of payables or receivables and a lot of payments coming in, that it can be a lot of work to match payments and credits to the various bills. We've encountered this at some of our high volume um, clients in the past, where it's hard to see like which credits and payments applied to something. So in the new release, there is the ability to set up matching rules and tune them so that your customer and vendor payments can get matched to invoices automatically. And then that enables an automated reconciliation of your balances. And in the case of accounts receivable, it also means that as credits and payments get applied to invoices, you can also include a running balance now in your AR statements. So if you're using a custom accounts receivable statement document in Sage Intacct, the running balance will now be a field that you can add to your statements. So that's something that I think came from customer ideas submitted through the Intacct community.
yeah, it's never fun trying to reconcile that between a vendor or a customer trying to figure out how things were applied in their system versus how things were applied in your system. It's just going to make that so much easier of a process. And it's something Tom and I were talking about yesterday, just like some of these changes might not seem that big, but once they're implemented, I feel like we're going to be like, why wasn't that always there?
Yeah. If
It's
we
like,
could
how
go
can I
back
live?
2 years in the past, we'd be like, well, why do I have to do this manually?
Yeah, how can I live
Computer
without
should
this?
do.
I would have to do a workaround. So things like this may seem small, but like overall user experience, we do feel like it is very noteworthy and something that you may end up using quite a bit.
Yeah. And related to that, the release earlier in the year, I think it was in R2, was this ability to find and unapply posted payments, so that if a payment got applied in accounts payable to the wrong vendor bill, then instead of being this big uh, cancellation process, that we'll just be able to unapply that payment and take it away from the bill that it was paid or was originally credited to. And then in the next slide, you'll see that the within the posted payments, I, this too I think was released too, but there's a tab to see which credits were applied. So where you've had this case in the past where you've got payments, you've got credits, and it's really hard to tell what was applied on a given invoice. Now you can go through and you can hit that tab and see exactly which credits were brought into that particular payment entry. So again, it isn't gonna change the whole company down to its foundations, but it's gonna make at least a couple people's lives a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like when they include the new tabs that have the posting details or extra details behind the transaction. I feel like Sage is getting really good about having so much information just within the transaction itself and like linking. Like for example, the bill, you can see how the bill is posted. You can see how the bill is paid. And like if you go into here with posted payments, you can see were there any credits applied. It's like there's just so much information on the transaction that you can get to quickly. And I feel like that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Also, since we're talking about improvements, Accounts payable automation continues to improve. You're not familiar with this. This is the ingestion tool to where you can either pull in a bill or have an email address set up for bills, and Sage will go ahead and create the bill in a draft stage for you in the system. Now, this is something that there's a fee for, but it's worth noting that they continue to improve this. This used to be a single line, didn't have as much dimensional accuracy. So now Sage has included multi-line GL coding in the bills. So it's not just one line level. You can have multiple line items to different expense accounts or just any accounts, and it's going to capture that for you. Also, an early adopter, we have automated PO matching. And actually, I think I kind of glossed over it too. It also goes to dimensionally as well. It's not just GL. You can actually learn the dimensions multi-line as well.
Yeah.
Don't want to forget that part because it is pretty cool and pretty important.
Yeah.
But in earlier adopter right now, we have automated PO matching. This is something where if you had POs and you had PO matching, this would have been a restrictor to where the automation may have not been as alluring to you. But when this comes out, you're going to have all of that going on within Sage, and you're going to have the learning, the PO matching as well. So something that like would save a ton of time. It is AI powered, so
Yeah. So
accuracy, learning, all that, all those benefits.
yeah. So again, the early adopters here have been. This has been an early adopter for I think all of 2024. And it's still there because these early adopter companies are training that PO matching engine to learn about exceptions and tolerances. It's a pretty complicated process. Even even people who do it get wrapped around the axle sometimes. So teaching a machine to do it takes a little while. But anyway, that's something that's in early adopter. I don't know if the early adopter program is still open for that, but it should be in general availability early next year.
Also in cash management, we have enhancements to the reconciliation matching. And small note, but useful to some, we are going to be able to have Canadian check printing, which is a recent addition for anyone that may have a Canadian entity. You would now be able to manage that check printing from Sage natively. And I imagine that's something they're going to continue to roll out across other countries as well.
Yeah, you see, I spelled checks the Canadian way there. Make sure that we addressed our audience.
I missed that, but I'm glad you noted that. So one of the things with cash management I mentioned was matching record report. So now you're going to have matching reports that really help you drill in and see like what's matching, how is it matching, and that's really useful when you're kind of honing your matching rules, right? Because matching rules can be sort of in a hierarchy. Like maybe you want something with a document number to match up first before something with a sort of a wider net. So this is going to give you a whole lot more detail about how things are reconciling and how they're matching. And Tom, I believe you mentioned this is something that is a record in the custom report writer. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is a reporting area that they have made available in that custom report writer. So, and again, it's custom report writer. It's not one of the advanced packages. So everybody has access to this. And if you're using automated bank matching, then you can build out one of these reports. And in the consolidation and multi-entity arena, there's also new custom report areas available for advanced ownership consolidation. And we don't have any clients currently using this, but we have some that might want to get into it. So advanced ownership consolidation, if you're not familiar, enables different kinds of ownership structures in a consolidation. So if you have minority interests and partial ownerships and joint ventures, that can be accounted for in the consolidation process. And so because of that, now they've added that as an area that you can pull into your custom report writer. And then I think this is really handy. So if you have a general ledger report that you have run off of the consolidation book, any consolidation book, as long as it's a single currency consolidation, you will be able to drill from the consolidation back to the original accrual journal entries. And that hasn't been available until I think that was release 3. And it, if you've ever tried untangling what's going on with a consolidation and understanding it, that just is so helpful. It's another one of those things that, like Michael and I were talking about, that we'll wonder in 2 years how we ever lived without it.
Yeah, and I understand why that one may have been a little bit more difficult. You're referencing an entire different set of books, really. So it's a very neat feature to come out.
Yeah, especially if your auditors have questions. You just be
Which
like,
they
boom,
always
here it
do.
is.
Which they always do.
That's their job.
Also, trying to make your life easier, there is the new inventory utilities. These are tabs within inventory, and each of these have different reports that you can run. And the idea is that it's going to make your whole life a whole lot easier for troubleshooting inventory valuations, your ledger balances, and figuring out your landing cost amount. Um, Inventory is a very involved module. So anything that helps you, analyze that easier is a big improvement.
Yeah, I particularly love that GL subledger reconciliation because
Mm-hmm.
if your workflows are complex enough, it can be really tricky to figure out where the quantities and the amounts came from that are hitting your inventory accounts. So that's great. And also to be able to view the application of landed costs if you use that in an inventory environment. Um, Pretty complex stuff on the back end. Nice that they have put it into a utility where we can just go straight to viewing it. In order entry and purchasing, if you use those modules, they've added the ability to trace back to source documents, not just from the header of an order entry, like a sales order or a PO, but all the way down to the line level. So if you're on the line level, line items of uh, say an order entry invoice, and you want to see where the source documents are, you can unroll, that show details button on each line. You can unroll those details, and there you'll find your document IDs for the whatever documents preceded the one you're looking at in that transaction flow. And it's got a hyperlink so you can go right back and open up those source documents in another window and have your whole audit trail right there in front of you. So that's super handy. Again, it's one of those things that makes a couple of people's lives so much easier. So happy to see that.
Yeah, anything that makes analysis or research, speeds it up is very much welcome, because no one likes to spend time just like, oh, where's that document? How am I going to find that? Oh, I got to go to this
Yeah.
screen. Just right at your fingertips. So
Yeah.
another welcome addition.
In one of my favorite modules is projects and grants. And also, as a part of that time and expense, we've got a few improvements that have come out over the year that I think could be super helpful for our clients that do have grant tracking and time and all that. One of those is the Sage Intelligent Time, which is an application that we love and find really under utilized. But if can we go to the next slide, Michael? So Sage Intelligent Time, if you're not familiar with it, um, allows users to give access to the AI to check their calendar and email and even desktop applications they're using, and propose a draft timesheet based on where their activities seem to be. It's the same the same thing that we do at the end of the day, trying to figure out where our time went. But of course, the AI is keeping a much more detailed track of that. And as you submit new timesheets, you finish them, you correct what the AI did, and you submit it. Then it learns and it does it better the next time, just the way you would expect. So the cool thing that happened this year is they took that Sage Intelligent Time and they brought it native into the projects module. Requires some setup, but that means you don't need to go out to a different module to do the timesheet and then sync it back in. It's going to be native in your projects or grants now. And there is the cool mobile app that goes with that, so you can do your timesheets without having to get back to your desk.
Yeah, time entry is not something I've ever heard people say they just love doing. So having the ability for it to, help you track time, catch things that maybe I focused on something for 15 minutes, was like dragged away and maybe forgot to, do it. It's going to increase that accuracy because it's going to have a suggestion of, what were you doing with this time? So speeding that up is huge. Tom and I both feel that, for clients who keep time in Sage, it's underutilized and there's just not really a good reason to not turn it on. Just being that it does make your life a whole lot easier if you're doing that time entry.
Yeah, and even though this is a sort of a separate product now incorporated into the projects module, it is not extra charge. It's just a part of that projects and billing or grants and billing application that some of our clients have.
Yeah, it's such a neat tool to be included with that.
Yeah.
Also new for employee expenses is the availability to distribute those across locations, dimensions, I guess dimensions and locations. That is, something that seems rather basic, but maybe that could have been a restricting factor of why you weren't necessarily using employee expenses in Sage and relying on like a third-party tool. We both agree Sage isn't necessarily like as good or streamlined as like a file or something. It's not as
not as fully automated.
Yeah, fully automated as such a thing. But these little improvements do make it much more viable a tool. So excited.
Yeah,
to
and
see
transaction allocations, we've got them we've had them for years in AP bills, for instance, but they haven't been available in expenses. And it's not the kind of thing that most of our marketplace partners in accounts payable or expenses would have available, because that allocation function in Sage Intacct is sort of unique to that. So, so it's great that it's here. And of course, there's other enablements in employee expenses, such as being able to email your receipts to a dedicated inbox so that they are waiting for you when you go to do this expense report. So yeah, definitely coming along there. In the, it's kind of a peripheral to the projects world, well, maybe, but if you're using any kind of relationship or transactions with retainage on them, it used to be a function that was only available if you were buying the construction and real estate products. So in this most recent release, they have brought retainage into the projects product so that you're now able to set up retainage. You can put a default percentage. I realize that this display is kind of small, but there's on the left side, putting a default percentage for your retainage on a customer record. And then that can be pulled in if you're generating invoices automatically out of the projects module. It will calculate that retainage percent and bring that into your invoice. So just a nice thing that they've, for no additional charge, have added that construction functionality into other projects. And that is available on both the receivable and the payable side. In contracts, we have some cool improvements. The contract dimension actually doesn't belong under contracts per se, because what it is is that the contract dimension is now available for anybody, any organization that's subscribed to revenue management. So there are different levels of revenue recognition capabilities in Sage Intacct. And at the most basic level, you can subscribe to revenue management and you can do it through the order entry module. But until this recent development, it didn't have a contract dimension to it. So now you have the ability to fire up a contracts dimension if you have that revenue management tool, and it will track those revenue schedules by contract ID. And then and if you get to the point where your contract relationships are more complex and you need to go to the some of the contracts products, you'll already have that contract dimension populated and will be in flight. So super handy there. You can pull it into financial reports. You see in this illustration here, you can break out your revenue line, for example, to show which contracts are behind that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the super neat parts there you mentioned, Tom, is maybe you're not ready for the full-blown contracts module, but you need that data, being able to know where it's coming from, having that included, and then being able to take that next step. Like, I am ready for contracts, but what am I going to do with all my historical data? You already have your contract ID, and you already are tracking that. So
yeah,
just very cool that you'd be able to keep your revenue by contract without having to do a bunch of historical work.
Yeah. And
Also,
then, is this one mine or yours?
that's actually you, Tom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and our colleague Mel was super excited about this one because having the start and end dates in your billing periods is really helpful for getting invoices, just generally managing the periods of contract. So you can view and edit and create bills based on the starts and end dates that are within these contract service periods. There's a lot to it. I just put one slide in here. So if it's something that looks like it applies to you, please follow up with us on this because you can pull those service dates into new fields within the document templates in contracts billing. And so that could really, really help with your accounts receivable process if that's an area you work in.
Absolutely. Yeah, just the ability to edit that and not have to go mess around with the actual individual contract is very useful. I love seeing that, and just the availability of having it on that document. The document is, it's one of those so simple things. Like, I want to have a line item that shows my service period for what we're billing.
Yeah,
so
without having to manually.
Yeah, it's something so simple, but I'm just glad it's here.
Yeah. Also, something simple that we're glad is here is the ability to use the filters and grab a whole lot of schedules, billing schedules in contracts, and then do bulk actions on them. So you can pause and resume a whole swath of contract billing schedules at once. You can also clear or you can cancel them. So they've rolled out these different functions as bulk actions over the course of the year, and this is where we're at now. But that can really, if you have a lot of contracts and you have to do something like put a bunch of billing schedules on pause, this can really help. And as you can see in this screenshot here, there's quite a number of fields that you can use in your filter to grab the correct population of contracts schedules to do these actions on. So a big time saver for folks who work with a lot of contracts.
And then also, we're going to hit on some administration and user experience enhancements. So one of my favorites, the beta list and usage insights, and then DKIM email authentication, which, as an accountant, doesn't sound like much to me, but will become important within Sage here in a few months. So talk about that. We now have the enhanced beta list in many other locations in the system. It like was rolled out in like 1 or 2 places, and now we're seeing it more and more in the system. If you're not familiar with it, if we go to say, let's go to a vendor list. Oh, it logged me out. Of course it would. Bear with me just one moment. And we're back. If you've been working in Sage for any amount of time, this list view will be very common to you. You know, if you want to change it, you have to go into your views. You have to create custom views with like a checklist box. And one of the really annoying things are the fixed width. So like we don't really have the availability to like move around vendor name to be longer or shorter. Same thing with state, you know, maybe this is taking up a lot of space right here.
Yeah.
By switching to the beta list, this is a different list engine and it's just way more. So things like vendor ID, I can actually just drag it, make it smaller. My filtering is still here. I can do all of my filtering like that. I also have the ability to just configure my columns quickly. So if I wanted to add any columns here, it's just easily available on that list. Another thing that I really like about the beta list is the different view. So if I switch views here, I can have the records out here, so my vendor IDs, and then I actually have the vendor record itself over here. So it's like a pop-up to where I can actually view the vendor record. If I change the list to American Express, say over here, I get the whole new vendor here, and I can still edit, duplicate any of the actions I need to do to that vendor right from here within the list. So I feel it's very useful. I feel it's a lot more dynamic and still easy to work with, and you can save your configurations as well. And I
Yeah,
another one of those things that
I think that ability to set up your configuration and your filters and then save it.
yeah.
And everybody can have their own saved.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great because if you're in the trenches with any of these lists on a day-to-day basis, being able to just jump to the piece that you need is terrific. You
And
see,
depending
there's
on
a theme here.
the list, I mean, it can be very informative. Something like a vendor list could
Yeah,
be like a report in itself. So
yeah,
just having the availability to be so dynamic, include what you want, export it. Just really impressed with the beta list so far. Also, usage insights. This is something where they had API usage and usage insights before, but Sage has went ahead and expanded the usage insights report. So if you're an admin, you should be able to view these reports. And it gives you a lot of useful information to how you're actually using the system. So, you know, you can nerd out on the amount of active customers and active vendors you've had and how it's gone over time. One of the cooler features for me that I think is the availability to see what your core subscriptions are and what your add-ons are. So hypothetically, maybe you're paying for an add-on that you're not using as much. You know, that might be nice to know. Also tracking your user count, how that's going over time. And then I really like the API usage tab because if you're doing any form of integration, that gives you a lot of information about what's coming into the system, tells you if there's anything erroring out, what the sources of the API calls are. So like bill.com sending in things or maybe files sending in things, and you can see on a daily basis like what's happening. So very
yeah.
cool. I nerd out on that kind of stuff. So
Well, and it is. I mean, it could be money. Like if you've got in these add-ons, we've had occasionally a client that had something in their add-on subscription that they forgot they even had, or maybe there's new people there and they didn't ever turn it on or put it into production. So that's handy in itself. And then The API usage, last year, Sage started charging for overages if you're over certain thresholds in API usage. And we went in and looked at this insights on the API usage and found old integrations that were still doing API calls and adding to their count for no good reason. Now it's really unusual for any of our clients to actually hit the threshold and get triggered for additional billing on API counts, but nobody wants to even get close to that if you don't need to. So yeah, good nerding out.
And speaking of,
Yeah, let's talk about DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. I had to look that up. But the idea here is, you know, we get support tickets from time to time that somebody is sending emails out of Sage Intacct. Maybe it's their invoicing, which is kind of important, and it's not getting to the recipients. And that's because spam filters are recognizing that you say it's from you at this address, but it's really coming from the Sage Intacct sender or servers. So it gets caught in spam filters because it's not aligned. So what the DKIM process enables you to do is to validate and or authenticate those domains within Sage Intacct so that the emails get sent with the correct domain tagged on them. And that there is setup required for this, and it's only part of it is Sage Intacct, but you need somebody who is in charge of your domains at your organization in order to provide the authentication to put back into Sage Intacct. But once that's set up, that should fix your issues if you've had any with getting emails delivered, and also will activate the new email log that's in your company page in Sage Intacct, your company module. Oh, and speaking of the company module, that is also where you will find that usage insights section that we were just looking at on the previous slide. If you're an admin and you have permissions to that, it'll show up on your company administration page.
yeah, and we've had some people have some issues with the email delivery log, right, without having this set up. So that's
yeah, because it bifurcated their email log between the two different log reports. So this will fix that also.
And isn't there a deadline?
Yeah, this has to be enabled by May of 2025.
Yeah,
and there's really good articles about how to do it in the help files, of course. And of course, we're also here to help. So we normally talk about functionality that is now available for you in your Sage Intacct system that you've already subscribed to, but we also wanted to highlight some of the add-on products that have come out in the past year or so. The professional services automation, an area that Sage Intacct has been trying to close a gap on. So if you've ever tried to use the Sage Intacct projects module to actually manage projects or plan staffing or something like that, what they had for resource management was frankly clunky, not very easy to use. So they partnered with a provider called Forecast to build the Sage Intacct professional services automation. It is AI powered, so it will help with planning, for instance, your staffing needs, looking at your overages and suggesting reallocations, all kinds of intelligent insights that are brought into that because of that AI. But also, just on a basic level, it's a full professional services automation with Gantt charts and resource planning, and the kind of risk management that you would hope any professional services organization would have going on in their software. So this is a beautiful cloud-based application that is integrated with Sage Intacct and available through Sage.
Also, a new add-on from Sage is their new Sage Fixed Asset Management. if you're not aware, there are multiple tools offered from Sage in the asset management arena. This is the newest and best. So getting some new features like the API integration, having more dimensions on your asset, depreciation methods. So this is something that, we'll see how it does. It is still rather new, but it is improved upon from the last asset management module.
Yeah, the Sage, of course, in the for a long history of the company has had one of the leading fixed asset tools out there that's just Sage Fixed Assets. And it's an on-premise client server solution, so not really great for the cloud, although you can integrate it with Intacct and other cloud-based applications. So this product, Sage Fixed Asset Management, is a fully cloud product on the Sage Intacct platform that's doing all of those depreciation and asset management functionalities. As Michael said, it's still relatively new and new features are rolling out each quarter. There were several that came out in Q4, but we won't go into those details because none of our clients are on this product yet. And we call it SFAM for short to keep it distinct from the other predecessor fixed asset products that are out there. And then we also have wanted to make sure that you all know about the forms and operations flows, which is another add-on product, but it lets you build custom forms and set up workflows without it doing a bunch of coding for things. The first round that came out enabled applications for grants and donor advised funds, just to provide that custom forms and processes for organizations that do accept applications for grants or let's say vendor contracts, and wanted a way to manage that workflow that integrates with Sage Intacct but isn't a part of the transactional workflow all the way through. So in the release 4, they added customer onboarding and customer portal capabilities, but you can build workflows if you're enterprising that aren't a part of the template delivered offering. This is a tool that lets you build and customize your own workflows and forms. And then Sage Intacct Data Flows came out earlier this year at the beginning of the year. Maybe it was even maybe it was R4 of last year, but we're just seeing this expanding. It is an iPaaS product, that is information platform as a service. It lets you connect Sage Intacct to not only HubSpot in this example, Blackline is a popular connector with Sage Intacct data flows, and then any custom data flows that you need. If you have an industry-specific revenue tool, for instance, you have a special billing application that's just for your industry, that if it has an open API, you can use the Sage Intacct data flows to integrate that information but back and forth with Sage Intacct.
And this wasn't the whole list. This was
not even close.
We just wanted to talk about and felt like might be useful for the majority of our clients. So we covered enhancements in AP and AR, the ever-evolving AP automation, changes to cash management, general ledger and consolidations, the inventory management tools that have been rolled out, order entry and purchasing changes, projects, grants, and time and expenses enhancements, which I feel like a lot of those are really, really useful, contracts and revenue management changes, and just changes to the admin and user experience and the enhancements that came out of that. Now, if you're curious, I need to know more about Sage releases. They always do have a calendar out there letting you know when new features will be coming out. A few weeks before a new change, we can expect to see information about the new release coming out. But maybe you need to see the release notes if you go to your homepage on Sage, and fingers crossed, it didn't boot me out again. There we go. I love it. Typically on the home screen, there will be the most recent release right here and a link to the release notes. So if I drill in here, I can see R4 was the most recent release. And then as I go down here, these are the areas in which they do the releases. So if I'm concerned with, are there any enhancements to payroll? I can just hop down here and see what has been rolled out in payroll. Or I can just kind of scroll down and see every single change that happened. So it's not just, release 4, the most recent release. We do have a option of going into prior releases as well, as far back as 2022. So if you have the time, you can actually go in and compare and contrast and see what we didn't cover versus what we did cover, and let us know what we missed. So there are a lot of enhancements, and some of them aren't necessarily, that big, but some of them are. So if you're ever curious, like, my favorite thing about Sage is how ready they are to enhance the product. And, a lot of these ideas do come from customer feedback. So a lot of the things we were talking about that just seem so simple, they're in there, like that came from a customer idea. That's where these changes actually a lot of the times come from. So
Yeah.
if you ever even have an idea of how the system can be used better, going in and creating an idea in community is a great thing to do. And then upvote. Like, if there's something that you see out there that you really like, go upvote that. Kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The most upvotes, they're like, oh, people do care about this. Like, let's see what we can do to roll out something. So it's a way to
Yeah,
enhance.
and if you're subscribing to Intacct, which we assume you are since you're here, then of course the subscription to Intacct Community is part of that. And if you're having any issues or haven't ever tried to get into the Sage Intacct community, let us know, because we can help you out with that, and that will give you access to, as Michael said, not only those customer ideas that you can add or upvote, but also all kinds of conversations between customers, consultants, and Sage Intacct people themselves, so that you can really learn a lot just by cruising through the community there and searching for answers to your questions.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, you can actually get to the community from your resources section on the native home screen. So there's a link right to it. And then you can either register or use your login information and log into community. It's great for getting help with a specific topic, or, like we were talking about, giving more ideas about how to better use the system. So
yeah,
very cool.
And with that, we have covered the bases that we expected to today. You can pull up our emails here and email Michael and I and tell us which was your favorite feature of today's presentation, of the best of 2024. And you will, as Shannon just put in the chat there, you will receive a recording of this presentation as well as the slides later on. So thank you so much for joining Michael and I today, and we will see you again next quarter. Have a happy holidays. Thanks.